Alright, what's going on, everybody? So this video is going to be pretty different. I don't think I've ever talked about anything like this on my channel before. But yeah, so this is going to be something a lot more like real and important, I guess. Most people that listen to this, they're not really going to know the person that I'm talking about. They're not really going to know much about the industry itself, but it's kind of irrelevant in the bigger picture. But anyway, less than 24 hours ago, this female Japanese professional wrestler named Hana Kimura committed suicide. Pretty tragic, obviously, but the reason is because pretty much she was on this reality show in Japan called Terrace House. And I don't really know what it's about. It's pretty much just people living in this house, I guess, and just existing together and doing stuff. But there was this incident on the show where she lashed out at another one of the residents of the house or whatever, a guy that she had a crush on named Kai, who he was this aloof guy, you know, pretty lazy, wasn't really doing much for himself, really careless, and she had gone on a double date with this guy that someone set up, and there was this issue. I mean, like, he pretty much just wasn't able to pay for anything, and he just kind of he just wasn't really, he didn't have his shit together, pretty much. And there were some other incidents that happened. You know, a lot of different things were just building up. And the thing that really sparked her to snap on this guy was she had her favorite piece of wrestling gear in the washer, but she forgot to take it out. And this Kai guy, he went to go put his load in, washed it, and he didn't realize that her her wrestling gear was in there. It was a special gear for her because she wore it at like one of the biggest, literally the biggest event in Japan, Wrestle Kingdom. So it had a lot of sentimental value to her, and it basically got ruined to the point that she couldn't wear it ever again because it was shrunk because of being in this load in this incorrect manner or whatever. So she snapped and confronted him about it, and basically cut this big promo on him, just ran him down, knocked his cap off his head, and she was legitimately angry, obviously. And a lot of the fans of the show, these fans, they're just so, you know, it's pretty much just the archetypical type of just garbage, you know, subhuman, like, obsessive fan base you can possibly think of. Just, you know, this isn't even hyperbole. These, there's a subreddit for this show, Terrace House, and that place was a dumpster fire. I mean, I've witnessed a lot of toxic fandoms. I have been in a lot of toxic fandoms. It's something I've been experiencing pretty much since I've got on the internet ages ago. And it's just something that's always been there. And this place makes almost everywhere else look like angels, like it's inhabited by fucking angels. It's horrible. You've got so many terrible ass people who are just raising people, hazing people, bullying the shit out of people, and it's just, you know, just telling people they should die, telling them that they're worthless, that they should just be erased, that they don't have the right to live over a fucking garbage ass reality show. Like, you know, I haven't even scratched the surface of how these people treated her, but she was pretty much getting cyberbullied for this for a long time, to the point that people thought, like, they were treating her like a complete fucking, like, you would think that maybe she was Hitler. Like, just, I don't know. I don't get why people do this. I can run it down. You know, anyone could just kind of try to, like, compartmentalize it and rationalize it, that people are just so fucking miserable. They don't have self-awareness. They don't have any tact, any human decency. They don't have just any real just decency about them, to just really sit back and acknowledge the fact that you're communicating with actual other human beings. It doesn't matter that you're behind a monitor, that you're behind a phone, or whatever. People just are so shitty and so incapable of admitting any wrongdoing, or acknowledging the fact that people just want to run away from responsibility. They don't want to be held accountable. This is everywhere in society. This is just a really shitty human trait. People want to do whatever the fuck they want, say whatever they want, and just get away with everything with no consequence. And especially when it comes to the internet, it's this real pervasive mindset where people just immediately dehumanize other people the moment that they disagree about something or hold a different viewpoint. And people can be so chill about it in terms of like just disagreeing, because you should be chill about it. There's no reason to just like start insulting someone just because they're not a carbon copy of your own belief system. But unfortunately, too many people are just way too insecure or just dumb to realize that, to just actually just, I don't know if they were just raised incorrectly or what, but so many people, when left to their own devices, are just absolutely incapable of being decent. And it's just really shitty and kind of infuriating to think about. But the reason why I made this rant is because it's really not only a scathing indictment of the fact that humanity has a very long way to go in terms of education and, parenting, proper parenting, and especially mental illness. Even in 2020, the perception and the stigma surrounding mental illness is absolutely unacceptable right now. It's still pretty fucking awful. There's still probably millions of people on the planet right now being bullied, whether it's physically, in person, or over the internet. And there's always this really awful fallacy that people use when they say, like, oh, how could someone possibly be affected by something bullying over the internet? Because as if to insinuate that because it's happening behind a monitor that you can just like shut your computer off or whatever and just walk away. That's completely fallacious and just short-minded and absent-minded, because it's just fucking dumb. Just because someone isn't physically next to you saying all this shit doesn't mean it's not going to affect you mentally. It's mental. That's the whole fucking point of bullying. Yeah, physical bullying's awful too. No one has the right to put their hands on you without consent or do some shit like that. But it's still, all of it is mental in nature. That's the whole fucking point. And that's why a lot of bullies do it, because they know that it affects people mentally. They enjoy just leeching off people's energy like that and just affecting people mentally, whether they're just a sociopath or a psycho, or they're just like miserable themselves and they want to project it onto other people to feel better about themselves. But there's never any excuse for this, to condone this shit. And unfortunately, because today, social media has only gotten bigger, and it's probably going to continue to get bigger for the foreseeable future. But the only thing social media does, I'm not going to say that social media itself is to blame, because social media is just a tool that humans are using to do this more. And these traits that I've talked about, they've always been there. They've always been a part of humanity. They've just been magnified because of social media. So it's just, there's no excuse for it. We've got this person who was just supremely talented. She was a bright prospect. She was only 22 years old. She hadn't even really began to live yet. She had so much to offer to the business, so much she could have done. She already had that it factor. So many people talk about that. She was super charismatic, just great worker, just super talented person, and her life has been robbed because people were so callous, so lacking in empathy, and just so shitty as human beings that they just kept harassing her, kept just bullying her and just shit-talking her and just not letting her just live her life normally. And it's for someone who was a celebrity of sorts in this industry, it's going to be magnified. It's going to be worse, because that just means there's more people magnetizing and just attracting to that person to be shitty to them. So every little thing they do is going to be ostracized and scrutinized and picked apart, much more so compared to a normal person. And, it's garbage. There's no excuse for this shit. And that's the reality we live in. All the people that contributed to this, they're not going to be held accountable. They're not going to be punished. There's not going to be any justice served. Her family and her friends, they are never going to see her again in this life. And that's the reality of it. And I'm sure there's going to be people out there that are so dog shit, so fucking subhuman, that they're going to get off on the fact that she fucking died. I know that for a fact. That's not even like, that's a guarantee. That's just how people are. It's always like this. There's always going to be these garbage ass people, and I use the term people here very loosely. There's always going to be these people out there that are just like that. You know, they're just beyond redemption. You know, just complete trash. But yeah, I mean, this is just a fucking tragedy. And earlier in this exact fucking week, we had Shad Gaspard pass away from a ripcord that drug him under, and he drowned. And it was uncertain if they were even going to be able to find his body, but his body washed up on shore a couple of days later, thankfully, which allows his family to get some degree of closure. So there's not that what if factor. If he like washed up somewhere else or whatever, they got his body and were able to have a regular funeral and rites and service. But still, just a big tragedy overall. And you know, that guy was a hero. He didn't really die because of bullying. He, you know, it was just a tragedy. He was out with his son. They were swimming, and just a big ass ripcord came out of nowhere. And his last act, his literal last act on this planet, was telling the lifeguards to go and save his son. And they actually got his son, but at the cost of his own life. That was his last act. You know, he just went out like a complete hero. And even before that, you know, like a couple of years ago, he literally saved a clerk from being killed in a robbery. You know, just a fantastic guy all around. Nobody in the industry that he was around ever had a bad thing to say about this guy. He lived his life to the fullest. He was getting tons of work in Hollywood and even some work in the video game industry. He did a lot of the combat mocap for Kratos in the most recent God of War, and he was also the actual physical model for Kratos in terms of the body from the neck down, which is pretty awesome. And just you know, he was writing. I think he had actually written his own screenplay. He was just doing a lot of work outside of wrestling and he was still wrestling too with GTG. They were still wrestling on the indie circuit, and it's just, you know, much love to him and his family, and ditto for Hana Kimura. Just really awful week, and just a shitty year in general. What a garbage year this has been for a lot of different things. But yeah, I mean, you know, rest in peace to these people. Rest in paradise. That's really the crux of what I wanted to rant about. You know, just people being trash and bullying just being garbage no matter where it comes from. And don't ever say that fallacy that if people should just shut their monitors off and walk away. It's just completely short-sighted and completely undermines the reality of bullying, where it's just a mental phenomenon. And it's just awful, and it shouldn't be a thing, but it's still a thing, and there's still tons of people who commit suicide because they're in such a dark place and they can't escape from it, or at least they feel they can't escape. And a lot of people in society brush it off, and that's a reason why a lot of these deaths could have been prevented, and they aren't prevented because so many people just scoff and thumb their fucking nose at it and don't take it seriously. So, you know, anyway, if there's anything that anyone can take from this fucking rant that I've done, if anyone's actually made it this far, you know, just be fucking better. Don't be garbage. It's that simple. It's easy. Don't be a fucking trash person. Anyway, 14 minutes, whatever. I think this is a good point to stop, because I don't really have much else insightful to really add. But anyway, peace be with you. Try to live your life in a good manner, and don't be shitty to people if you don't really have to be. Alright, later. Peace.